So I want to talk about a particular brand. Remember, ladies, Abercrombie and Fitch? New cleats on the block had a bunch of hits. What was that song? Um, Sounds of the Summer, whatever it was. I always think of Abercrombie with that song. Anyway, um, Abercrombie over like the past, I would say like 9 months, is making a comeback. And so, for those of you that are either not in the know in fashion or it just wasn't on your radar, years ago, Abercrombie was they were like the most hated retailer in fashion. And the reason was because from a representation standpoint of not only the models that represented the brand in terms of marketing, advertising, and all that, but then also hiring practices within the stores, the retail stores. It was not, it really was not diverse enough. That was what the call out was. And there were specific like memos and things that came out that were really like kind of shady. It wasn't great. And they were like lambasted and they were like the redheaded stepchild for years. So they scrapped all that, hired new teams, got everything back to, where hopefully it should be. And really from like, I would say around like last summer, they started really kind of like getting back into a groove of being a popular brand again. And so what was interesting, and looking at my notes here, last November, so November 2023, going into December 2023, in terms of clothing and accessory shopping, as a whole, it dropped. It dropped 0.4% in terms of revenue from November to December. However, Abercrombie like really, really beat that. So I think part of it is because they have figured out that they need to continue marketing to Gen Z. And to be honest, like even as we age, they still kind of have like their core audience, right? So they rebranded, they continued their marketing efforts to Gen Z, and Gen Z honestly was is a lot more conscious, I would say, than prior generations, and especially if you're thinking about it from even a marketing standpoint, the channels of getting your message out there, your clothing out there. A lot of it is driven by social media. Gen Z grew up with social media, right? Not like me, where we had, the dialing, the rotary dials before Touchstone even came out, okay, from all those years ago. But they have had a massive, massive rebrand that really does include more inclusion. And they also kind of, from an aesthetic standpoint, they moved away from that kind of more preppy look, which is what they were really, really known for. And they kind of like emerged into getting kind of like more down to earth looks, looks that were refined, that are accessible, and things that would also kind of appeal to the young professional, right? So like basic like sheath dresses and so on. But they had a couple pieces that went viral last year. I think one of them was the a camo hoodie, and then also like pants. Um, it was a trouser pant that went really, really viral. And what was interesting when I was kind of researching this for the show today, an interesting quote that came out of this was that one of the reasons that they did well with that pant, and this is I love this stuff, the psychology behind like the motivation of shopping and getting dressed and so on. But the when you when you buy a top, you're most likely just to walk out with that top and not buy something to pair with it. But when you buy a pair of pants, you're more than likely to buy a top to go with it. So that's exactly what happened to them. And they had a huge, huge boom. And so, not only Abercrombie, but then other sister kind of retailers in terms of the target market and the clothing and everything, Hollister and American Eagle, also kind of like coming back. So I just thought that was really interesting. I may revisit them. I've got to revisit them first from a quality standpoint because I don't typically curate pieces from stores um, um, that maybe were known for not having the best quality. And but I think it's worth revisiting because I do feel, at every budget level, we do need to have some good options out there for the consumer and for them to do this brand kind of reload, right? And really kind of get, I would say, back to basics. Lots of really great brands that kind of hover on the basics do really, 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 really well. Another one that has been growing and getting steam is Buck Mason, and I did a whole review last year. If you check my channel, I have a video where I'm reviewing pieces that I had gotten, and they're also brand that kind of like hang out in like core basic pieces. Their palette is very neutral, but it's great because these are the pieces that you can pair back with that statement piece, right? We all need good core pieces, so it'll be interesting to see what direction Abercrombie and Fitch continues to go. But right now, I mean, they're really, really killing it with their audience, and they're really killing it in terms of revenue. So I really want to know from you, you know, is this a brand that you shopped at in the past, either your teeny bopper days or a little bit older, as a young professional? Is it a brand, given the information I shared with you today, is it a brand that you may consider revisiting for maybe some core basics? I think it's worth taking a look at. The next time that I in the mall and have a little bit of time, I may pop in just to see what they have going on. For me, I've got to like interact with it. I need to have touch, feel, because let me tell you something. If something feels like cheap and nasty, I'm done. Okay. I'm not paying I'm not paying 1 red cent for something that is not made from a textile standpoint, coming from really, really great textiles and materials, and textures, and definitely not if the stitching is awful. All right. So I would love feedback if you have had good interactions, or maybe even not, with Abercrombie. I'd love to know because, again, they have not been on my radar for years. So I really don't know if it is actually true that they have improved a little bit. So yeah, let me know your feedback there. All right.